Hey everybody, welcome back. We all work for a living, right? But have you ever stopped to think about how those paychecks actually come together?
Well, it's definitely more than just picking a number, that's for sure. There's a whole world of compensation and benefits that go into keeping employees, happy and productive.
Right, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. These things are crucial for attracting and keeping top talent, but they're also super important for, making sure that people actually want to come to work every day and do their best.
Absolutely. It's about, creating that environment where people feel valued and appreciated, which ultimately benefits everyone.
So let's break it all down, starting with the basics. Compensation.
Hmm.
So, we all know about salaries, right? It's that nice, steady income we can count on.
Yeah, that's kind of your foundation, the base pay.
But
But it gets, a lot more interesting. Think about wages, for example.
wages. So is that different from a salary?
It can be. Sometimes wages are hourly, you get
Yeah.
paid for the time you put in. But in some jobs, wages are tied to how much work you actually complete. Like, think about maybe construction or freelance work.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not always about just clocking in and out.
Exactly. And then you've got all sorts of incentive pay on top of that, like bonuses, commissions, all those performance-based
Oh,
rewards.
yeah. Those are always nice. Like those big sales bonuses you hear about, right?
Exactly. It's a classic example. It's about, rewarding people for going above and beyond or hitting specific targets. And it can actually, be a really powerful motivator.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And of course, we can't forget about overtime pay for when, you're putting in those extra hours.
Hmm.
But there's one type of compensation that's been getting a lot of buzz lately. Equity compensation?
Yeah, that's a big one, especially in the startup world. It's basically, like getting a piece of the company, often through stock
So
options.
you actually get to own a part of the company you work for.
Yeah, that's the idea. It can be really attractive to employees, especially when a company is just starting out and might not have, a ton of cash to throw around for big salaries.
That makes a lot of sense. But how does that actually work? Do you just get the stock right away?
Not necessarily. There's usually a vesting schedule, which basically means you have to work at the company for a certain amount of time before you actually own those stocks. It's kind of like a way to encourage people to stick around and contribute to the company's growth.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Okay, so we've covered the compensation side of things, but what about benefits? Those perks beyond the paycheck that can make a big difference?
Definitely. I mean, those are essential, and actually health insurance is one of the most important ones. It covers, medical, dental, vision care. It's that safety net that we all need.
Yeah, you never know when you're going to need it, and it gives you that peace of mind knowing you're covered.
Absolutely. Then you have your retirement plans, like 401ks, pensions, which are all about planning for your future. Did you know that some companies will actually match what you put in? So they're basically, giving you free money for your retirement.
Whoa, that's amazing. I need to look into that.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about my personal favorite benefit. Paid time off, vacations, sick days, mental health days. It's about taking care of yourself and recharging those batteries.
Yeah. Time off is so important, right? And companies are actually starting to get a lot more creative with benefits these days, like offering flexible work arrangements, like
Right.
working remotely or having flexible
Oh,
hours.
yeah. Remote work has become a big one. And I've even heard of companies doing compressed work weeks.
Right. So you might work, 4 longer days instead of 5
Mhm.
and then have a 3-day weekend. It's all about, adapting to how people want to work and live these days.
I love that. Flexibility is key. Oh, and we can't forget about employee assistance programs or EAPs. Those can be super helpful when people are facing, personal challenges. They can provide access to things like counseling or legal help.
Exactly. And it's a great way for companies to show they care about their employees' well-being, both in and outside of work. But speaking of well-being, we should also talk about non-monetary compensation, which is, just as important.
What's that? Is that like free snacks in the break room?
Haha. Well, those are nice too. But I'm talking about things like professional development opportunities.
Grow.
Training programs, conferences, maybe even tuition reimbursement.
Oh, yeah. It's about investing in your employees' growth and helping them advance their careers. I bet people love that.
They do. It shows that you're, committed to their development. I actually had an employee once who, through our professional development program, got a really specialized certification that made her a total rock star in her field.
Wow, so it really paid off for her.
It did. And, she ended up leading this huge project for us and was incredibly loyal to the company for, believing in her.
That's awesome. Okay, and then there are recognition programs, right?
Yeah.
Like when your hard work gets acknowledged and celebrated.
Yes. Recognition is so important, whether it's a shout out in a company meeting, a bonus for hitting a target, or even just a simple thank you note.
Yeah, it's all about making people feel valued and appreciated for what they bring to the table.
Right. And, it can really boost morale and create this positive, supportive culture, but it has to be genuine.
I agree. Can't feel forced. Okay, so we've covered compensation, benefits, and even non-monetary rewards. But there's one more piece of the puzzle, the work environment itself.
Yeah, the overall vibe, a positive culture, having the resources you need, and finding that work-life balance, all of that matters.
For sure. I mean, who wants to work in a place that's toxic or stressful, you know?
Exactly. And studies have shown that, when employees are happy and healthy, companies actually perform better financially. It's a win-win situation.
Totally. So it seems like both compensation and benefits are crucial for attracting, keeping, and motivating a great workforce. But there's also the legal side of things, right?
Oh, absolutely. There are laws and regulations around, fair pay, discrimination, and all of that.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's where HR professionals come in. We have to stay on top of all that, make sure the company is following the rules, and that everything's fair and equitable for everyone.
So it's a pretty big responsibility.
It is, but it's also super important because, at the end of the day, we want to create a workplace where everyone feels respected and valued.
Well said. Okay, so to wrap things up, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to remember that compensation and benefits are way more than just, transactions. They're strategic tools that can really shape a company's culture and its success.
It's about finding that sweet spot where you're attracting top talent, keeping your employees happy and engaged, and creating a work environment that's positive and productive.
Exactly. So, with all the changes happening in the world of work these days, what do you think will be the next big thing in benefits?
That's a great question. I think we'll definitely see an even bigger emphasis on, mental health and well-being, and maybe even more personalized benefits packages that are tailored to each employee's unique needs.
I think you're right. That's a really interesting thought.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. Well, that was fantastic. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of compensation and benefits.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners, keep those questions coming, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.